This video is going to be built for people who have never seen a scope before. I'm also going to have another video that is going to be people who've not used the Tektronix TDS 2012 scope. So I'm going to start off and I'm just going to say I've got over here a signal generator. You don't have to worry, right now I have it sitting at, I'll put it around 4,000, or right now it's, we'll crank it up. It's sitting at 1100 hertz, a square wave, and this is just for simulation purposes. And I'm going to be using this particular scope, and so let me just do some basics on it. We have two scope probes. There's a black side, and it's just interesting to note that this black side, these two internally are connected, so they're shorted together, so you really only need one of them connected. Okay, these two are, this is rather tender. You don't want to bend these sideways, and so you generally clip this onto a wire or something, not the other way around. You don't clip, like, it'd be really bad of me to come here and clip onto this way. I wouldn't do that. What I'd do instead that would be smarter is I'd find a wire, like a leg of resistor here, and I would clip onto it, and I'd clip this onto it as well. That's probably the proper way to do it. The other thing is most of these scope probes, the end tip comes off, and you end up with just this tip, and you can use this to go around your circuit and to poke different areas. Okay, so those are those snap on. You could hear a click when I did it. They also have a little switch on them. Generally we leave them in current position, which is the 1-time position, and then these also go up to a multiplier of 10. You can see it says 10x and 1x, but we typically just leave them there at the 1x. Okay, these are both plugged in. These are just VNC cables. They just push and twist, and you can kind of tell when they're on there. They're also color coded. You can get these backwards. Right now I do have blue connected to the blue channel and yellow connected to the yellow channel. You can tell that right there. And then for these ones, we're just going to power it on and wait for it to boot up. And this one might take a little bit. There's no digital storage on this one. However, I think in the back, no, this one does not have the USB option. There are others of them that have a CF card, an old school CF card that plugs in back here. The first question it's going to ask you is what language. If you just leave it long enough, it'll pop over like that, or you can touch one of these other buttons. So what does the scope do? And right now you can see there's a little red indicator stop. There's a run stop button here. I'm going to press run. And what does the scope do? Well, it lets us see things that happen too quick for our eyes to see. In other words, if you had an LED blinking really fast, like say at 1100 hertz, you would be able to. So let me do this. I'm going to hook up. I've got the square wave that's sitting here, right? And I've got an LED. Let me see if I can find the right size resistor for it. And what we're going to do, nope, wrong size resistor. We should be able to hook up an LED and get it to blink for us. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to hook that one up. And I'm just going to I might have that LED in backwards. Okay, so I've got that LED hooked up, and right now you can see that it just looks like it's on. Well, that's because both my camera and my eyes can't see it. So I just switched it down to, and sure tell you that it does blink. And LEDs have the capability of blinking very, very fast. Now I crank this back up to 1100 hertz. There's 1100 hertz. We just can't see it. We want to be able to see that it blinks, though, and so that's where the scope probes come in. So what we're going to do is we're going to only take the yellow channel here. And remember how I said that this black side is grounded? Well, so is this black side of the signal generator. Just a little warning about that. I'm going to clip that there, and I'm going to clip this on the other side of that. Now, let's go up. And so the signal, or the scope, is showing me pretty much the same thing that I saw with my eyes, which is it's going too fast. So I have 3 major adjustments that I can make. This one is time scale horizontal, and right now it says 50 milliseconds. In other words, each one of these blocks is 50 milliseconds wide. Between this vertical and this vertical dashed line is 50 milliseconds. So let's see what happens if we, oh, it's down to 10 milliseconds. You can't probably see it, but right here it says 10 milliseconds. And then we're going to crank it down again and again and again and again. And what it's doing is it is basically taking a snapshot that repeats. It's looking for a repeating signal and displaying that to us. Over here, and just to show you, the blue channel, by the way, is you can see it cutting across horizontally there. There's this little thing, you see the arrow, I'm moving it on the side with this knob. This is called the trigger, and it'll start scrolling if I don't have that trigger there. The trigger basically looks for the repeating signal. Also, the trigger, if you look at it, says that I'm triggering on channel 1 rather than channel 2, and if I just press this button I can change it to channel 2. It'll start scrolling again, so I'm going to switch it back to channel 1. Okay? I'm going to turn off the trigger menu. I don't know if I can turn off the trigger menu, but on this one. But we're able to see that square wave, and I can do stuff over on the signal generator. I'm going to adjust amplitude. We can see I can adjust the amplitude up and down. And the LED is actually getting brighter and dimmer, you can see, just in the very bottom of the screen there. Okay? And so it allows us to see amplitude, and what's even cooler is I can put 2 scope probes. I'm going to bring this up here. I'm going to put 2 here at the same time. Now is the time where you look at this, and this channel says that channel 1 says 2 volts, and that's per division, so every block of this is 2 volts. Okay? I can adjust that by adjusting this knob here, how big it is. So if I came here and saw this, I would know it's too big, and I'm going to crank it down. I can also adjust vertical position, like that. And I can also adjust horizontal position, if I want to see something more or something less. I can also, if I want just a snapshot if things are changing, I can hit run stop and it stops it. The other thing I can press here that's kind of handy is a button called single sequence. And the single sequence allows us to run it until there is a signal detected, and then it'll stop it. And so this is really good for single shot type applications. Okay, so if we look back here, this is still at 2 volts per division. This one's at 4.56, which is kind of weird. And what somebody's done is they have, if we press this channel 2 menu button, it should tell us some different options. So it's 1 volt fine. So instead of doing fine, I want to do coarse divisions per volts. And now it snaps back. Now it's at 2 volts. And there's also this marker here, the 2 next to it tells you where 0 volts is. And you can tell it is a diode. It's doing some rectification for anybody who is interested in electronics. And it has a little bit of voltage drop over that LED. But other than that, it's just regular square wave, and we can look at the difference between it. So this is a basic intro to scopes. It was quick. It was kind of tough to understand for maybe some of you. Go back and look and see if you can replicate what I did here with yours. I want to show you one other thing. This is the auto set button. I typically do not tell people to use it, and I don't like to. If you hit the auto set button, what it does is it brings up the best it can. It selects a whole bunch of different options. If you look down here, it tells us what channel 2 everything is and what channel 1 is and channel 2. Anyways, it sets this all up. The problem is that oftentimes, and I don't know what this scope is going to do, if we have everything disconnect and you hit auto set, it'll bring up the closest thing that it can. And in this case, it's not too bad. The ones that we have up in lab always bring up the FM radio station. And people always get confused because they can't see anything because they're looking at the FM radio station because they're zoomed in way too far. And so that's the last thing I want to show you is I typically don't like to use the auto set function because it really screws things up. But you can get the idea of messing with this yourself. If you want a signal generator, I can probably find one for you.